Hey guys, welcome to my review, and here's my review for Marvel's Eternals. Marvel's Eternals stars Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Kit Harington, Kumail Nanjiani, and Salma Hayek. And the movie is directed by one of the most overrated directors to me, Chloe Zhao, who directed the Snooze Fest, Nomadland. Didn't like that movie. And this movie is the new Marvel film. The movie is based the plot of this movie is it takes place after Avengers Endgame, and this tragedy happens, and these aliens who've been living on Earth for thousands of years have to come out of the shadows and put an end to these ancient evil deviants that want to destroy mankind, called the Deviants. And the Eternals are like these superheroes, I guess, and they do not interfere with anything in history or Earth and stuff like stuff with Thanos. They try not to interrupt with big events because they can't intervene with stuff. So, but when the Deviants come, they have to, I guess, intervene. They kind of explain it half-assly in in the movie, but yeah. Celestial beings, alien beings, superheroes come together, defeat evil forces, like, pretty much most fucking Marvel films, superheroes versus bad people. There you go. How about that? Eternals, the first Marvel movie with a negative score on Rotten Tomatoes. That is like it's the big news right now. Like, as of what I saw right now, it's a 53%, but it could have changed. It could be up higher or lower as of now, when this video comes out, so could be wrong, but 53%, wow, that is pretty low for a Marvel film. And a lot of people were having high expectations. I knew from the trailers, I even said from the trailers, this movie looked super underwhelming, and now for seeing it myself, I can actually say it's very underwhelming. Eternals is not the worst MCU film. It's not a game changer or a masterpiece or a best. It's one of the weaker ones. It's one of them. It's just not. It's not Iron Man 2, because Iron Man 2 is just so fucking boring. It's not cringy like Captain Marvel. So it's kind of like a little bit a little bit better than those. It's I'd say it's like on the same length as like maybe a Thor: The Dark World. I'd say that. I would call Thor: The Dark World the worst MCU film. I don't think so. I think it's just a very mediocre film. That's really it. I think it's okay. Nothing awful about it. It's just mediocre. Iron Man 2 and Captain Marvel are terrible films, but Thor: The Dark World is just mediocre, and that's what Eternals is. It's not awful. It's just a very mediocre film that has really nothing interesting to offer. The movie has a huge cast, and there's like 10 main characters in this film. And that is the biggest flaw with this movie, is that you have 10 characters and not one of them is interesting. Not one of them is enjoyable. Not one of them is likable. I could care less about any of them. I think Gemma Chan gives the best performance in the movie. I think she is a very good actress in this film, and performance-wise, I think she is the best. And I think they tried very hard. Her character, Cersei, I think her name is. I think she is the most interesting out of all of them. But, again, like, none of them are three-dimensional. They're all very bland and boring-ass characters. I could care less about any of them. Richard Madden gives one of the worst performances. He is so wooden in this movie. It's laughable. Just gives this stale performance. And I love Richard Madden. I think he's a great actor. I love him in Game of Thrones. In the show Bodyguard, he is fantastic in that show. He's a terrific actor. I loved him in the Cinderella movie. He's a great actor. He is horrible in this movie. And the characters are just so badly written, because there's so many of them. Like, every scene, like, a new character's coming in. Like, you have no time to get invested with any of them, and you have no time to give a shit about any of them. All the relationships you don't give a shit about, the friendships you don't give a shit about. Like, the movie's about 2.5 hours, a little bit over, actually. A little bit over the 2.5 hour mark, and it crams so much in. This is like a 6 hour film craved in 2.5 hours. Like, there is a lot going on. and it's like very like just they took a lot out, I guess, or something. Like they should have just like I had this problem with like maybe Dune as well. They should have just been a miniseries. Eternals should have just been a miniseries because like they bit off more than they could chew with this one. Just I'm like, what? There's so many things that just like don't make sense. There's so many things I'm just like, wow, they could have explained that better, or I wish I cared more about like this character could have been interesting if they would just go into more details with them. That relationship could have been a lot more interesting if they gone into details with that. These evil villains, these deviants could have been more interesting if they went more detail with that. There's a certain thing in this movie, I'm like, oh, they could go more with that. There's a character who's always a child, like they could go into more detail with that, but like they don't. They get a little screen time each, and then they like come together, and then that's yeah. Then they interact as a group, and like I don't know. The movie, the movie thought it was like this big epic film and like this big grand Marvel film that's like gonna change the universe, and it does none of that. It's big. It's beautifully shot. The cinematography is spectacular. It's a Marvel film. Of course, visually it's fantastic. It's a Marvel film. Like, they put a lot of money into these movies. Visually stunning. Cinematography fantastic. Even the action scenes are pretty cool. Like, there are some really cool kick-ass action scenes in this movie. But it's like, at least like I didn't love like Shang-Chi. I didn't love it. But at least Shang-Chi, I cared about a certain character. The villain. I loved that character. I think he was a great character. As much as I didn't care about the heroes, I loved that villain. And I was rooting for that villain, and I really enjoyed it. And I loved Shang-Chi's sister. I thought she was a cool character and an interesting character. Like, I gave a shit about at least people. Even though I didn't love the movie, but I loved certain characters, and I liked rooting for them. And I liked some of the kung fu action scenes they had in that movie, too. This one, I cared about nobody. I cared about nothing that was going on. And as cool as the action scenes were, there was no stakes for me because I didn't care about who lived or died. Like when, like in Shang-Chi, I'm like, I want the villain to win because he's awesome. Or like I wanted the sister to have a happy ending because she's went through so much. I'm like, I'm rooting for her and stuff. So I actually liked those characters. But in this one, I'm like, I don't give a fuck who wins. I just didn't give a shit about any of these characters. So that was a huge problem with me. I was just like zero investment. I was not invested with the story. I was not invested with the characters. And then it was just so long and just, it wasn't funny. The movie tries to be funny at times. It's definitely the most serious Marvel film, easily. But it puts jokes in there and they're ungodly unfunny. Like, oh my god. It's like a fucking teenager wrote some of these jokes. I'm like, oh fucking Christ. Just maybe you should do comedy. And like Chloe Zhao, like I know a lot of people love her as this great indie director, which is cool. I'm not a huge fan. I've seen Nomadland and this, and I haven't liked either one of them, so I'm not a huge Chloe Zhao fan. And I don't think her direction was really great because she didn't get compelling performances out of these actors. She didn't direct an interesting story, and she just tried so hard to make this movie big and grand and visually stunning, but she failed to make an interesting, compelling story with great characters. So I think she failed when it comes to this one. This movie itself, I think, is a failure for what it's trying to achieve. I think it is a mediocre film. I don't think it's an awful film because I'd still love the visuals and the look of it, and the action was really badass, and the music was really cool too, but it's a mediocre film. Again, it's not like boring as fuck like Iron Man 2, and it's not like this cringy, stupid movie like Captain Marvel, but it's not great. It's not great. I personally would not recommend Marvel's The Eternals. Scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. It's a very mediocre film. I'd skip it. So in the comment section, please tell me what are your thoughts and opinions on Marvel's Eternals. Do you love it? Are you in the it's a very divisive film, so are you in the hate, or are you in the love, or are you with me and just saying, it's mediocre? Give your thoughts and opinions. Comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and join the dark side.